We do have more to do today, and my understanding is that voter registration is still going through the box of 2,500, but should be completed sometime here today. As I said, the investigation is...
Now, there are some reasons for this, and I think Democrats' heads are all exploding out there watching this right now. There are some reasons for this, which you're going to explain, but also begin to raise the possibility that we could see the reverse. We could.
If she said that, look, she's a grossly incompetent person, and if she said that, they had the worst voter in history.
A voter fraud ring busted in Pennsylvania. You see Commissioner Josh Parsons from Lancaster County, the official county commissioner, said, breaking news. Lancaster County in Pennsylvania, a very important swing state, finds and stops suspected voter registration fraud operation, and it was a big one. 2,500 ballots that they have identified in this bundle. The question, of course, becomes, what have they not found? What has gone through? So it's out of Lancaster County. We know Pennsylvania, very important state. Some say the most important this election cycle. And Lancaster is right here. In 2020, Trump carried the county 56% to 41%. And I think these are interesting because we're trying to identify where the fraud is occurring and what is the purpose of the fraud. We talked previously in a different segment about what's happening in Colorado. Jenna Griswold, Crazy Eyes Griswold, who tried to get Trump thrown off the ballot for this election cycle, is now admitting that there were ballots that were intercepted as they were being sent out to voters, which leads us to believe that the fraud was occurring at her office or at the Postal Service's office because they're intercepting the voters on the way out. Before they get to the voters, they're being voted and returned back in. Now, she says there were only 3 of those, but we all know the concept of a limited hangout, and when they come out and they say, well, it's just a couple of small things here or there, it never is. Okay, it's not 3 ballots, Jenna. Can you tell us how many others got through before you caught on to it? No, you can't because you don't know. But here's some more background. They say, look, here's a fresh blow to Americans' confidence in elections. Prosecutors in a key Pennsylvania county said on Friday they'd uncovered a large-scale scheme to submit fraudulent voter applications that were collected at shopping malls and other locations. Lancaster District Attorney, we're going to hear from her, Heather Adams, held a news conference, said 60% of some 2,500 election registrations were fraudulent. Said that while detectives continue to review the applications, they've confirmed fake names, IDs, and signatures were used to submit the applications, creating potentially fake voters. In some cases, real voters' names were used, but they said they neither approved nor signed the registrations. At this point, we've confirmed violations of our criminal code. Said we're aware of at least 2 other counties that may have similar concerns about recent voter registrations dropped off in large batches. Staff noticed that there were numerous applications and confirmed indicators of fraud. Lancaster is a politically influential county in the battleground state, home to a large Amish population that both parties have courted. Pennsylvania State Department, which oversees elections, praised Lancaster County for its quick actions. The department has been in contact with the county and is offering support. And we've already talked about prior schemes here. And of course, that is a big one. 2,500 votes is a big deal. So here is what it sounded like. This is District Attorney Heather Adams explaining.
On Tuesday afternoon, I was contacted by Krista Miller, who is our Chief Clerk of Elections, regarding potentially fraudulent voter registration applications that had recently been received by her office. At that time, she informed me that the Elections Office received approximately 2,500 applications at or near the deadline for registering to vote. While preparing to process these applications, staff noticed that numerous applications appeared to have the same handwriting, were filled out on the same day with unknown signatures, and some were previously registered voters, and the signatures on file did not match the signatures on the application. Lancaster County detectives began investigating the voter registration applications and immediately found applications that were indeed fraudulent. Indicators of fraud included inaccuracies with the address listed on the applications, false personal identification information, as well as false names. A number of the applications also contained names that did not match the provided Social Security information. In some cases, applications contained correct personal identification information, such as the correct address, correct phone number, date of birth, driver's license number, and Social Security number. But the individuals listed on the applications informed detectives that they did not request the form, they did not complete the form, and verified that the signature on the form was not theirs. At this point, it is believed that the fraudulent voter registrations are connected to a large-scale canvassing operations for voter registrations that date back to June. However, the majority of the applications received are dated August 15th and after. Those canvassing for voter registrations were employed and paid to obtain voter registration applications. The majority of the applications were from residents in the city of Lancaster. However, applications applications were also received from residents in Columbia, Elizabethtown, Mountjoy, Akron, Ephrata, Stevens, Strasburg, as well as other locations across Lancaster County. The canvasses themselves took place at various shopping centers, parking lots of grocery stores and businesses.
This was happening all over
sidewalks,
Arizona, too. We had
and
people
parks.
everywhere.
During
They're
this
still out.
preliminary investigation,
Not anymore.
detectives were able to verify some of the applications were indeed legitimate.
A lot of
In
money
these
being
instances,
dumped into
the
these orgs.
the applicant verified that they did provide information to a canvasser. For these applications, we will immediately advise voter registration and that we confirm that they are legitimate requests, and voter registration will process that application. Thus far, of the investigations that we have completed, we have determined that 60% have been fraudulent. That is of the investigations that we've completed. We do have more to do today, and my understanding is that voter registration is still going through the box of 2,500, but should be completed sometime here today. As I said, the
That's what they
investigation is
caught.
ongoing. We are aware of at least 2 other counties that received similar applications that are currently being investigated. At this point, we have confirmed violation of our crimes code as well as our elections code. We have all available detectives working on this. We are all hands on deck so that we can properly assess the validity of these applications in a timely manner. If needed, we will request additional assistance from our local police departments. The message to the public is this, and this is a limited message to those who may have been impacted with this batch of 2,500. If you have reason to believe that your personal information was used on a voter registration application without your consent, or if you were approached by someone and asked to register under suspicious circumstances, we do want to hear from you. You can call the Lancaster County District Attorney's Office, 299-8100, and ask to speak to the on-call detective. Also, applications that contain names that did not match the provided Social Security information. There were also applications, though, that had correct personal identification information, but the signature did not match, and when investigated,
So
they were
what
determined to be
organization
fraudulent.
was behind it? Any ideas?
The handwriting, the signatures, and that's really what started to tip off our staff, is that, these were in a stack, and
Got to
all
change
of
it
a
up,
sudden,
fraudsters.
several had the same handwriting and signatures, and immediately our staff contacted us in the district attorney's office. That's how we got alerted, and then it started this large-scale investigation. As the district attorney said, that's when the detective started to then contact those voters and found out that they were, in fact, most of them were not actually the person who filled it out or signed them.
I would say we can say it appears to be an organized effort at this point, but of course it's an ongoing investigation. And
So
we'll
maybe
be,
not an organization.
looking into who exactly participated in it and how far up it goes.
Wow.
Well, the fraudulent registrations and applications, did they involve one particular party or did it involve both?
I could say
Great question.
It does not appear at this point. It doesn't seem that it's any one party. They're, in some cases, they're registering in different parties. In some cases, they're just changing an address, or at least appearing to change an address or something else other than party. But at least from what we're seeing, it doesn't look like it's any one necessarily registration. I don't know if the district attorney can also add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that right for the general election, it really wouldn't matter. What we are concerned about and is the fact that if there's fraudulent voters, if there are voters on the books that shouldn't be, it increases the chance that we're going to have voter fraud.
Well, it does matter in the context of securing a motive. Who's behind it? And our take when we were talking about Colorado and Griswold, if these were MAGA, election, Russian, insurrectionist interferers, wouldn't we know that? If this was Pootie Poo, wouldn't they be telling us it's Russian invasions again and collusion again? So it makes me believe when they're being coy about who's behind it, what operations are behind it, we know it's the Democrats. They just can't say it.
And
I think.
what
I
we're
could be wrong on that, but that's my gut instinct.
looking into and what we're going to investigate is whether or not, thankfully we stopped part 1, right? That was getting a voter on the books that perhaps shouldn't have been. But part 2 is whether or not anyone intended to turn that application then into a fraudulent vote. And for all intents and purposes, that's been stopped because of the good work of those in the elections
Which
office
we
and the
appreciate.
ongoing
We
investigation.
appreciate. The question we have is what
And
else
with
came
that,
in?
Anyone who tries part 2, potentially, we're going to find you. We're also looking at those applications as well and then matching them up against these applications. So we take this very seriously. I don't know if you want to address that as well.
Well, I mean, yeah, like I said, we have all resources and all hands on deck. And of course, we're going to follow this investigation as far as we can. We will make arrests if we can, and they will be prosecuted accordingly. We have violations of the crime code, potentially forgery, numerous violations of the elections code, which are misdemeanors of the first degree in some instances, and carry with it a 10-year disenfranchisement. So we'll be looking at all the options.
Ireland, ABC 27. You said 2 other counties also, Heather, I believe, that are experiencing this. Are you able to tell us what counties?
I'm I'm not going to name them. That would be up to them to make a statement if they so choose. Our detectives have been in contact with both of the detectives in those two counties at this point.
Do you think you caught all the applications coming from this operation?
Good question.
Were they all just submitted at once on
Deep
Friday?
breath.
Sorry, last Monday?
Friday and Monday.
Yeah, or did more come in July and August that might have been approved?
Yeah, are they
What
just
it
getting
looks like to
desperate
us
and
is
sloppy?
that, kind of mentioned this previously, that the date on the applications is one thing. When they come here, it's another. And so it appears that this stack were generated starting in July and in August and September, and then were brought in at the last minute.
It appears, right? They could just be backdating those registration
I think your
forms.
question, Carter, is are we confident we've isolated them? We're confident in our procedures. We're confident that the elections workers that we have do not cut corners and that they're reviewing all applications in accordance with the law, and that if there were any other issues, we would have caught them.
And to that point, as we've said all along, that's how our staff caught this. This is the process they go through from the time, well, since voter registrations and mail ballot requests come in.
Is that unusual? There were two separate batches of what, like more than 1,000 each, one on Friday, one on Monday?
Yes. We've gotten large batches, quite frankly, over the last several weeks from canvassers. And I know we don't want to disparage all folks that are registering people. This seems to be, at this point, and I don't want to steal anything from you, but it seems like it's isolated to maybe one organization or you two. So we don't want to say
One
that
organization.
you can't trust anybody, quite frankly, because, voter registration is a personal matter, and there are a lot of good people trying to help register people. And that's great, and that's fine, and we're happy to help, get those people registered. But this is not right. It's illegal. It's immoral, and we found it, and we're going to take care of it.
I want to just comment on that. There are a lot of grassroots activists out there registering people in Lancaster County and all across Pennsylvania. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. We 100% support it regardless of your party, and those are fine. And it is not unusual to have large number of voter registrations coming in. We're, processing those. This is a limited, specific organization, and, we'll deal with that.
Who is it?
Can you name that organization?
No,
You're
there's
investigating?
no more comments about who's behind this or what organization.
Why not? Why? All right. No, look, I understand why. All right. So if we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt, they're like, well, we got to investigate. We don't want to start lobbing accusations around and all the things. Why do they need to cheat so badly? Well, it's because they're doing terribly in the polls. Here is CNN trying to break the news to their viewers that Trump might even win the popular vote, for crying out loud, even with all the illegal aliens voting.
Trump may finally get his great white whale. Harris versus Trump national march. And you mentioned that New York Times poll, a tie. That's actually right in the middle of the spectrum when we're talking about recent polling data. You don't have to look very far to find Donald Trump ahead nationally. He was up by 2 points in the CNBC poll, up by 3 in the Wall Street Journal poll. Very close races within the margin of error. But then the same thing on the other side, right? You have Harris up by 3 points according to Ipsos. The Say 24 YouGov poll, that's a bunch of academics, also has Harris up by 3. But the bottom line is, with the popular vote, which we really haven't focused upon, a very, very tight race, John. Fact is, Donald Trump is very much in a position he could win the popular vote, which of course is something he would absolutely love to do.
And would be something very different than we have seen compared to last time and the polling compared to last time.
Exactly right. So I went back through the time machine, all right? I went back through the time machine to see where were the past 2 races at this point in the campaign. Look, Harris in the average poll right now is up by 1, well within the margin of error. You go back 4 years ago, Joe Biden was well ahead of Donald Trump in the national popular vote polls. He was up by 9. Even Hillary Clinton was up by 6 points. So now Donald Trump's in a position he really hasn't been before at this point in the campaign, where he could truly compete, and we can truly say that the popular vote at this point is way too close to call. Of course, this is only going back 8 years. I wanted to jump even further back in my time machine to get an understanding. Hey, I haven't heard about a Republican potentially winning the popular vote in a while. And it turns out a Republican winning the popular vote, it hasn't happened since 2004 in George W. Bush defeating John Kerry. And that's only the one time that it has happened. In fact, you have to go all the way back to 1988 to find another one, when it was George W. Bush's father, George H.W. Bush, winning the popular vote over Michael Dukakis. So the fact that the polls right now are so close, John, the fact that Donald Trump has a legitimate shot of winning the popular vote is something I think a lot of folks, including in my line of work, really didn't think could possibly happen when Donald Trump was running last time around. He could make history, not just for Donald Trump, but for a Republican candidate as well.
Now, there are some reasons for this, and I think Democrats' heads are all exploding out there watching this right now. There are some reasons for this, which you're going to explain, but also begin to raise raise the possibility that
That's
we could see the
true.
reverse. We could see the reverse of things we've seen, where a Republican wins the popular vote, but there's a chance for the Democrat to win the Electoral College.
Yeah, part of my job is to warn our viewers on either side of the aisle of an event that may occur that they don't necessarily like, and Donald Trump
ready
winning the
for it,
popular vote could
Democrats.
absolutely happen. You might as well wrap your minds around it now, folks, if you don't like Donald Trump.
Oh!
But on the flip side of that, a potentially good sign for Democrats is, why is Donald Trump doing so well in the popular vote polls? You can dig down into the state level polling, and you can see that Donald Trump is doing particularly well in California, Florida, New York, and Texas. Of course, none of these states are really on the board at this point, so Donald Trump may end up gaining in the national popular vote polls, but actually he's wasting votes, which could in fact lead to a case where Kamala Harris could sneak by in the Electoral College by sweeping those Great Lake battleground states, which at this point are way too close to call, John.
That's right. It'd be interesting to see then if all that talk about Electoral College reform takes on a bit of a new light.
It may. In 2000, remember, folks thought that Al Gore would win the Electoral College and lose in the popular vote. It turns out they were all wrong.
All right.
Amazing. What a great report. Yeah, Democrats' heads are exploding at home. Bunch of people just broke their TVs and canceled their cable networks, and Washington Post and all that. Hilarious, hilarious. He's braced for impact. Now, we're not getting complacent here, okay? We're voting. We're going to be channeling Mika Brzezinski here, okay? We're going to be voting like they're killing us. We're going to be out there voting like we're going to die, all right? Just pretend like you're Mika Brzezinski for the next 11 days until you get your ballots in, okay? We're all going to die unless we vote, right? That's how it is, because Kamala Harris is going to be in charge. And now she's talking like Trump is Hitler. And it's a funny question that she gets. It's, people who shot at Trump or were going to shoot at Trump, they all kind of sound like you. Is that a problem, you think?
One quick question. Mitch McConnell and Speaker Mike Johnson put out a statement comparing rhetoric that you have been using, comparing it to the man who's accused of an attempted assassination on your opponent, Donald Trump. Do you take their criticism seriously?
Well, listen, we all must speak out against any form of political violence, and I'm very clear about that. No one should be the subject of violence, much less political violence. But the American people deserve to be presented with facts and the truth. And the fact and the truth is that some of the people closest to Donald Trump when he was president, generals, including most recently John Kelly, a 4-star Marine general, have been very clear about the danger and the threat that Donald Trump poses to America and the fact that he is unfit to serve. And the American people deserve to hear that and know about that so they can make a decision based on what's in the best interest of themselves and their families.
Okay, so basically, yeah, she's going to continue to talk that way, right? He's a real threat to you, and he is going to kill you and your families, just like Mika Brzezinski said. He's killing us. So one person who is very upset about this is Jennifer Rubin, and she writes over for the Washington Post. She's basically a hysterical person, and here is what she's so upset about. Now, if you don't understand the threat that is happening in America right now, America, I don't know what's wrong with you, okay? Jennifer Rubin is very upset with you, and you need to figure it out, okay? We're in a real crisis. Trump's going to murder everybody immediately, and Jennifer Rubin wants you to know about it.
This is what the election is about. What happened? It was nowhere to be found on the front pages of the major newspapers today. What is wrong with them? If the most breathtaking news of our political lives hit them in the face, they would not know about it. And once again, they have failed the American people. Will it make a difference? I don't know. Certainly, Fox is now making excuses for why a reference to Hitler's generals might not be as bad as we think. Really? Well, they're about as detestable as can be. But the rest of the Americans need to wake up. The rest of America need to understand this is not a joke. This is not a drill. This guy is nuts. He's dangerous. And the people closest to him know he's nuts and dangerous. And if we can't figure it out, if the American people can't get their act together, then we really don't deserve democracy we've been
Okay,
given.
yes, Jennifer, we're all going to die. We know. Okay, we don't deserve it. So you can see how upset she is. Now, here was Mark Hemingway. Here was Jennifer Rubin. She said that yesterday when one of her friends' organizations didn't endorse because they're so embarrassed by Kamala Harris, then she said that she endorses them resigning. So this person, Sewell Chan, said, "I'm resigning because I want to make it clear that I'm not okay with us being silent." Garza told me. She says, "Oh, bravo, all respect. We're so proud of you for resigning. Where are the rest of them?" Now, the question is she going to resign because the Washington Post is not endorsing anybody this season because they can't stand Kamala Harris and they have a little bit of self-respect left. So Mark Hemingway is asking if she's going to resign. Of course, the answer is no. And this is one of the funnest clips I think that we've seen yet of President Trump. He doesn't even know that he's hilarious and he's being hilarious. But here he is with Bill Melugin, and he gets asked about his reaction to Kamala's reaction. And Kamala, during her town hall with CNN, which was a disaster, even Anderson Cooper couldn't believe it, she was asked specifically about her role on the border and how well they they did during her time as the vice president. Here's President Trump in response.
She said during that town hall she believes they've handled the border correctly. CNN pressed her on it. Would you have done anything different? Do you regret anything? And she said, quote, I think we did the right thing.
Wait a minute, that she's handled it correctly?
Correct.
She said that?
She said that. Said, quote, I think we did the right thing.
We allowed 21 million people in. We allowed 13,099 murderers. We allowed mental institutions from all over the world. If she said that, look, she's a grossly incompetent person. And if she said that, they had the worst border in history.
My favorite. It's like, she said that, she said that. Unbelievable. And he's exactly right. It's been a catastrophe from Kamala. She thinks she did a great job. Everyone around her tells her she did a great job, but the American people know better. An outstanding clip from the amazing president. My friends, we'll be here continuing to cover this. Thanks for subscribing and joining us as we do, and we'll see you out there on the election trail.